Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charnley, and this is another Shropshire church. This is the church of St Milburga, Beckbury. It's another one of those churches in between Shifnal and Bridgnorth. Now there's definitely been a church here, but the earliest record in fact of a rectory like that is in the early 12th century. But the dedication to St Milburga, who of course is an Anglo-Saxon saint, suggests an earlier building on this site. The present building is very largely Victorian. There is an 18th century tower and a 15th century font, but most of the building that we see today is Victorian. It's a massive rebuild. The stone, as I've said in previous videos, this area is a little bit rubbish around here, and what that means is that rebuilds tended to have been required quite a lot. So there's not a lot of very, very old stuff in this area, but it's all very interesting with this nice little building. So we'll have a look around and again point out the salient features, as we say. So as usual, we start at the west end. Here is this, say, 15th century font. It's made of local red sandstone with a nice lead lining. The church is dedicated to St Milburga, who was the founder of Much Wenlock, if I remember correctly. And like so many of these Anglo-Saxon female saints, she was a... there she is. Obviously, this is an imaginative reconstruction. She was the daughter of Hereward, King of Mercia, and she died in 723. And like so many of these, she was a princess who founded a monastery, founded a nunnery, and the reason for this, very largely one suspects, is that the alternative was getting married. And this might not be the most desirable thing with some of these princesses. They wanted to keep up their own kind of, their own independence. So you found a nunnery and you become the abbess, and there you go. We have here memorials to the Stubbs family. As a Lieutenant Colonel Orlando Stubbs of the Bengal Army of the Honourable East India Company, and the Beckbury, the Stubbs were at Beckbury Hall. So he became Brigadier, first class commander in the contingent force and covering the fort of Gwalior. And his health failed and he died in 1845. It's a nice little building with, see, aisles. The stonework all looks Victorian, which doesn't surprise me around here. Interesting stone pulpit. Again, stone pulpits are not everybody's thing, but this pulpit has been nicely carved with, as you can see, flowers and plant and leaves and things. Sort of decorative work that, you see ferns and ivy there. Decorative work, we've got another one of these little low walls. Doesn't look like there ever was a metal work on top of it. And the chancel, and again it's all of a piece. We've got one of these English altars here. There aren't any angels on the riddle posts. You've got the usual sort of embroidery. Now here we have a medieval incised slab. This is 15th century from the look of the fashions and the armour. I said before, one of the things about medieval artwork like this is it gives us a really good idea of what high-class women wore, but not a lot of what high-class men wore, because they're generally pictured in armour. You can see he's got his dog under his feet, and there's their children at the bottom, and you can see the men are just in these ordinary robes. So we get the impression that women's fashions were very, very fancy, but men's fashions could be as well. The armour is usually, the clothing is an armour is usually very well rendered, so you know it is fairly realistic. We have here the Good Shepherd window, very popular subject for a window, and at the east window we have the Ascension in the middle, and Christ receiving little children, and then Christ and the resurrection and the life. And you can see how this means that the celebrant, as they would say, has to be standing with his back to the people, which is not actually allowed in the Book of Common Prayer, but it was very, very popular in the Anglo-Catholic movement. Little seat there. Again, 20th century, if not 21st. Looking west, simple little building, really. You have here, let's just look at an old window, and here, Christ bearing the cross. You can't see that very well on the video, though. This would have been the organ chamber. In fact, this is the organ chamber, but the old organ that used to be in there has been taken out and replaced with a modern electric version. And then old memorials have been attached at the back of the church, mostly to the Stubbs family of Beckbury Hall, which does not surprise us. But here's Captain William Horton of Cainton House, late of Her Majesty's 6th Foot, died 21st December 1844, aged 69. And then W.J. Young, late of Cainton House, dies 1823. And here we have memorial to Major F.S. Lloyd, North Staff's Regiment, who was killed in Flanders Fields, and this is of course a memorial. It's by his sister Alice Slater, and there she is with that roundel of Christ's death. He that loseth his life for my sake shall find it. We need to remember that even in 1914, England is a very Christian country, and so a lot of Christian iconography and Christian language is used of the Great War. The idea that it was a and obviously it is not a religious war, but how do you make sense of war? How do you make sense of death? Well, if you have a Christian background, you do so based on Christian theology and Christian language. And even when it's not actually Christian theology, you've got Christian language there, and also you've got this idea of the knight errant, the bold, brave knight. There he is. I'm not sure whether that's supposed to be Major Lloyd or not. It probably isn't, but it's a representative knight. Here we have a memorial to the Reverend John Dehane of Jesus College, Cambridge, later this place, and formerly of Kiltwick Hall in the West Riding of Yorkshire. Departed this life on the 16th day of May 1822, aged 58 years. Also Margaret Rogers, his wife, who died on the 13th day of June 1840, aged 72 years. She was the daughter of the late John Wright, Esquire, of Bolton on Swale in the county of York, who was lineally descended from Sir Nathan Wright, Lord Keeper of the Great Seal in the reigns of King William III and Queen Anne. This pride of ancestry, shall we say. And so, Basil is another Basil John Daniels, accidentally killed in Johannesburg, 7th of April 1907, later of the Cape Mounted Rifles, served through the South African War, and then dies in an accident. So it goes sometimes. So that is the inside here of St Milburga's at Beckbury. And so here we are outside at St Milburga's Beckbury. Now, there's quite a steep slope on this south side of the church, so it's approaching the north side. But what the slope does allow me to do, of course, is stand here with the church visible. You can see how low the tower is. Now, the tower, of course, was originally low. It's low because of this Victorian rebuild of the church, which I can see. The nave is Georgian. You can just see, I pointed out, to see here these coins, and then there's this brick here. But the Georgian church would have had a lower roof line, because that roof is interfering a bit. But the tower is pure Georgian, so this is a Georgian church with probably aisles added by the Victorians, because one of the things the Victorians would have done is taken a gallery out, and of course the gallery means, take the gallery out, you need to put new seating capacity, and that's where the aisles come in. The nave appears, sorry, the chancel appears to be medieval, and we'll see that when we get low. But just to see about there, the low side window, and that is a sign of a medieval building because, for the most part, because the Victorians misunderstood this as a leper window, they didn't incorporate a low side windows in churches that were just rebuilt. Well, we'll have a look around the outside and again point out these features that, and I'm quite surprised to find actually the nave, and this is another reason for going up here, because it's the side that you don't see so much. You can see now the nave is actually Georgian. So nice Georgian church with additions. Well, let's have a look around the outside. So there we go. There's the church, and you can see that Victorian aisle there, largely medieval chancel from the look of things, and then the rest of it is Georgian. Very good building. We'll descend slowly and carefully up this slope because nobody wants to have an accident on it. And here we have, there's that low side window there, and as we go nearer, you'll see just by the aisle, you've got these rusticated quoins like the ones on the tower, and that tells me immediately, and that cornice up there, that tells me that is the Georgian church, Georgian nave. But that low side window says medieval, probably 13th century, if that window's original. The east window, because it's stained glass, is protected by a wire mesh. The war memorial there is in the form of a churchyard cross, and quite a common thing to do. It could lead to, well, it did sometimes lead to objections if you had nonconformists in the village who said, well, hang on a minute, this is the dead include our people as well. And here again you've just got that hint of the Georgian building, and there's the organ chamber sticking out, and this is clearly somebody's family vault, so there's probably a shaft under there if that gets lifted off. That's that war memorial. And the north side is the main entrance side, because that's the side that faces the village, and you've got this hill on the other side. You can see there's evidence of a medieval tomb recess there, or that may actually be remains of an Easter sepulchre that's been moved outside, but one or the other. And again, a little low side window visible. Nice porch with a wooden superstructure, and no, it's not so that the Georgian work is not so obvious on this side, but you've still got that cornice visible, and nice shaped topiaried yews there, and that's nice, very nice porch, bit of black and white work, and up there you've got that Georgian tower, and you can see here you've got this clerestory inserted on this side. Now, I can't see any evidence of Georgian windows, doesn't mean they didn't go up that high, but they might not have. And so we go round the back, around the west end, and you've got this very nice, this is why we're going around here, you've got this nice Georgian door case. There you can see. And here, thankfully, they haven't just gone, oh, it's Georgian, it's ugly, and ripped it all out. They've kept the tower, at least in its Georgian form, with its little cap. Now we have the hill ascending above the church. So that is St Milburga's Beckbury. So that is St Milburga's Beckbury, this very lovely little village church with this complicated history, because the dedication says Anglo-Saxon, originally 13th century apparently chancel, 18th century nave and tower, and then 19th century aisles and general restoration. And so for something so small, there's such a complicated history here. And it's the case with so many these little village churches. And here, how long has there been worship here? Does it go back to the days when St Milburga, princess that she was, although she had her nuns, she was also involved in sending people out. I mean, previous video at Stoke St Milburga, where she had a riding accident. She was quite an active woman, and she was involved in the evangelization of the area, in founding churches, so she may very well have actually dedicated the first church here, and that's why it ends up being St Milburga's. And so it's fascinating in this little rural village in Shropshire to think on the long history of these islands and of this land, this Shropshire. Well, thank you very much for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.